So now I can't hear anything apart from my own voice. It's the first time I've done this, so do bear with me. I feel it's a bit weird. Anyway, so I've called the talk, well, Kate asked me to give it a title, so I've called it Phantasmagoria, Malleable Space and the Dark Corners. And to start off, I'm actually starting off with the dark corners. So there's a fair bit to go. I've got a fair bit. This is quite a structured presentation, but it's the dark corners. I thought about some work that really has made a huge difference to me when I saw it, that is kind of stuck in my head since, was the Parsifal cycle by Kiefer. And you don't get much darker corners than this. My use of the term dark corners is actually more to do with the idea of my work in general, I think, looks into. You don't necessarily want to go, but you feel you ought to know, you ought to look, you ought to see something that's uncomfortable, difficult to look at. And Kiefer's work, I think, I feel that he does this as well. His subjects are difficult subjects often, but he works so many things together, and somehow this sense of, I've written here, the transformation in he starts off with the notion of the space being his own studio. And this gets transformed into a sort of dream space through it. And the floorboards have this sense of the theatre stage to them. And then there's the opera is based on a medieval romance, which goes back to the Grail legends. So there's this space is transformed into something other. And there's a quote by Walter Benjamin, who again is a very his Arcades project has been very influential on the way I create space in the last couple of years. And he says the windows, he's talking about arcades, 19th century arcades, and he says the windows look down on it like loges, theatre boxes, but one cannot see out of the windows to the outside. And I thought that's just what these are like. Their windows are there, but they're not windows we can look out of. We don't feel that they exist as, there's an outside. They exist to shed a light on the space, on the floor, but the outside isn't really there. They're completely contained. And this sense of space is what I was trying to get in this project that I'm about. Of the theatre stage and malleable painting space for telling stories. It's a space for telling stories. And so just to warm you up there for this is so it makes more sense maybe of this painting this is the Dream House series. And it comes again from Walter Benjamin's Arcades project, and it's the dream house is an idea of the phantasmagoria, which is the real and the dream in combination. And arcades are houses or passages having no. And I thought, oh yeah, that's it, because the subject I was looking at the time was the photographic record of abandoned migrant ships, which on the Mediterranean, which were the photographic record was taken by SOS Mediterranean and other rescue workers, and they took these eerie photographs, and they're eerie partly because the colors of the ships inside and out are this blue. This is the color. This is not an exaggeration so the real is like a dream. You know, the reality of these spaces is that they are this blue, and I can't imagine anything more horrific being threatened in a blue space, you know, just sort of being in this space there's this color and all the thoughts that are running through your head. And I put dying in blue. These spaces are inside with no outside was a reality because people didn't come out of them. That was the last place they were on Earth. That was their last space they inhabited. So somewhere in there is this, I suppose, sense I can sort of like the Parsifal cycle of some transformation from just an illustration of a migrant ship to something other, and trying to get that sense of windows that don't go anywhere, doorways that don't go anywhere. Maybe the huis clos of Sartre's sort of idea of a space where that's all there is. This is it, that you're in it, and there's more that I did with this space. I made some malleable space. I elongated it a bit to see what would happen. I mean, I did lots of these. I haven't presented them all, but I focused on different elements because some you see a lot of chaos in once the people are gone from the spaces, what's left is all the fragments of their lives on the ship. Water bottles, clothes everywhere, food wrappings. It's this sort of absolute chaos of the remnants of this existence on the ship. So these were more about that. This kind of takes those away, strips it down even more, and these were more about this kind of human chaos that's left behind. And then this is a slightly different one because there was another kind of space that was interesting, and this was the most terrifying space of all. This was the hold right at the bottom of the ship. And again, it's like the sort of the Globe Theatre. You've got these sort of levels to it. And in the bottom is where people went levels, and this is where the water comes in first, and this is a very dangerous place to be inside the ship. And after they drained it, there were all these life jackets stacked up at the back, and so they sort of turned into this sort of red, sort of contained red sort of energy, and this sense of containment, but again, somehow quite theatrical of a sort of Shakespearean theatre. And then these, again, these are smaller ones where I only focused on 3 spaces. There was the first one, and then this second one where you're looking down into the hold. And there was a third kind, which is the one on the right, where you see it almost like a sort of anatomical interior where there's almost these sort of ribs on the sides. And again, this was the color. The sides of the ship were painted pink. The sides of this interior were pink. I don't know why, because it's a weird thing that they were painted pink, but that was the punctum, if you, that was the thing that I found. So I had to use the image once I saw these pink sort of rib-like interiors. And what's hanging down are clothes. Clothes were spilling through the entrances, clothes everywhere, bottles everywhere, just total chaos. And the beam coming down was that blue. So you know, there's nothing stranger than reality, and I suppose that what I make is to show things, and not try and give a prescribed meaning to them or a prescribed definition of you know, what you should think about it, but just to show them. And really rarely there's much imaginative departure. There is a bit later in the next series I'm going to show you, but this one is really quite straightforward. It's these colors are what they were in the photos. And here again, I made the space quite sparse. And this was a larger canvas. And this was the early stages when I was putting on the first marks, and I was going to wipe. I literally just sort of dragged the paint across the surface to indicate where I was going to put things. And I stopped and looked back at it, and I thought, I don't think I can do anything else to this. Yeah, it's quite frustrating when you've made a frame that's, you know, almost 2 meters, and you go, hold on, I think that's, yeah, that's done. And I don't know quite what, because I learnt my lesson from the first one where I overworked it and it took months to get it back. So I left it as it's where I felt it was done. And this is a version this is what I was trying to get to. You see, this is 10 by 25. I've got 3 of these, and I was trying to get that to be that. And I would have to make more to get that to be that, but basically that's what I got at 190. I think there's more mileage in this. I don't think I've finished with these spaces, but I think I need to do other things first, and then come back to them, because just to keep going, I think you do get a bit tired of it, and you need to move away and come back. So that's kind of, I don't think this is the last word. I don't think it's quite done, but anyway, that was kind of what I was hoping for. But on 10 by 25 centimeters, you just drag a finger across and you've got what you want. You know, it's different. It's different. Physicality to the work. So this is the last one of that series. And now, to make a kind of a link with Phantasmagoria, Paul Nash, who was war artist in the First World War, and he fought in the trenches first before going back as a war artist. And he observed that the most convincing character of reality is the unreal quality of the scene. It is like a battle in a dream, fought out amongst green hills and flowering hedges. I remember the tall grasses and the wild flowers that nodded over the gaping trenches in front of Ypres in 1917. And that's really interesting. I just think that's amazing. It's the unreal quality is the real. And I think that in his paintings is everything I would, you know, I find them entirely satisfying, his paintings, more or less all of them. And I have them in my mind more or less all the time when I'm painting. And his sense of this, what he manages to capture of our appalling relationship with nature, the uncomfortable, this clash between, you know, humanity and nature is so there in his war work. And the Spring in the Trenches is really, I put that in. There's so many I could put in. The Men in Road is my favorite, but this one I thought worked really well with what he's saying about, you know, that although nature is being completely destroyed in this area of space of no man's land, it will come back, you know, and So the other quote was from Blake's poem Milton, and is this the void outside of existence, which if entered into becomes a womb? And I think I'm very, very interested in this, in both things, in the void, like no man's land, the void, and the interior, the interiority, which can also be kind of infinite. And the void can be like a womb, as Blake puts it, if entered into becomes a womb. So from no interior to no exterior, you know, these things are sort of reversible and interchangeable. And it's something that I'm playing with constantly in painting. And I think it relates back to this idea of windows and, you know, the window not being really something we see out of, but we're looking in, and even a vast void can be like its stage in a way. You know, it can be, and anyway, so I'll move on. And so from there, I went to aftermath art in the wake of World War I at Tate Britain. And the things that stuck in my mind was this one, and I'm actually not quite sure who this is by. I couldn't find it again. This is my own photograph of it, and I can't find it again. So if anyone knows who this is by, please let me know. The Dada collages just exploded a whole load of thoughts in my head. And obviously Otto Dix's The War 50 engravings, just everything I've just said about Nash, really, you can apply to these as well. Really need to say much more about them, but they're just incredible. And he was there and he saw what he saw, and that's what he produced. And so you can kind of, you know, these are genuine documents of somebody's experience. The Otto Dix and the Dada. And then one other thing before I show the series, which is very important to explain, is that I started at this point as well, looking into the life of the early life of my grandfather, Stephen, who I'm named after, and my mother's father. And it wasn't an idea yet, but it was a sort of compulsion to search for his experience in the war, which he never spoke about. He was the same age as Paul Nash. He was on the Western Front at the same time as Paul Nash. You know, there's all these kind of psychogeographical kind of coincidences that are kind of unconscious when you're looking at things, but afterwards they seem clear. So this, I found a lot of information about him through the archives, and I found out this is his an enlistment card. Hell's eyes were grey, which I didn't know, like my son has very grey eyes. And he is the same height as me, same colour hair, this weird stuff. But I also found out, because he was 2 days off his 23rd birthday when he enlisted, and he was on the Somme in the Royal Garrison Artillery Heavy Battery, and on the 2nd of August 1915 he was two shells went off next to he was a second lieutenant, next to the officers' mess. 2 shells went off and blew him backwards into a trench where he was buried alive, and he was dug out. This happened all the time. He was dug out, but he had very severe shell shock. I went through the photographic record and tried to find a photo with him in it, which I kind of just thought I wanted to try and do, you know, why not? And that reminded me of a very important book to me, is Roland Barthes's Camera Lucida, where he starts the book with explaining why he started the book, which is to find his mother had just died, and he wanted to look. He looked through old photo albums of hers, and he wanted to find her, a picture, an image, a photo of her that gave her back to him in a way that where he thought, there she is, and he felt her in the photo. Through the photo, he felt her. So this is a photograph of him with his mother, Henriette. And the Winter Garden photo is the photo. He said that after looking through so many photos of the family album, the only one that really spoke to him was one of her when she was very, very young, very small child, in the Winter Garden. And that photo isn't included in the book. That's private. But it's what drew him to question what photography is, what it does. And my search for Stephen is, again, to reclaim the loss of somebody I never knew. He died just before I was born. To know, would I recognize him? Would he leap out at me? If I saw him amongst a group of people in a photo, would I go, that's him? And there's this sort of sense of a dream, you know, you're really telling yourself a story. Sorry, one more thing. The next thing before I started the work was very important. Ariel's song, and this is comes to me from Julian Rowe, because he'd already worked on this, on The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. A sea change, transformation in the tempest. Full fathom 5, thy father lies, of his bones a coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes. Nothing of him doth fade, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange. Sea nymphs hourly ring his knell, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong bell. Okay, so the pearls that were his eyes. And looking for your grandfather, and this idea of the pearls, I loved it. And then, eyes I dare not meet in dreams, in death's dream kingdom, these do not appear. There the eyes are sunlight on a broken column. And from The Wasteland, April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land. That made me think of Nash. Mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. I remember those are pearls that were his eyes. Are you alive or not? Is there nothing in your head? So from there, all of that, these were the collages I made from that I had collated of the trenches. Some are photographs of archaeological digs on the trenches, of contemporary of photographers in the trenches. So you get a mixture of different feeling and texture to them. The bell, obviously, the reference to the Shakespeare, Ariel's song, wind, water, and the bell. The Ariel's song is in my head all the time. That was all the time. Something of that I wanted in each image. The sun. This guy, I put some rose petals over his head. I worked on these for quite a long time. There's 10 of them in total, but I worked on it. I turned this poor guy's coat into an aeroplane, but it's like not an airplane. It's a flying vessel, you know, transforming. And And somehow in transforming, there's a sense of healing and letting people go, letting things go. And letting them free. Then these are the paintings that came from there, 10 canvases. A bit quick, 10 canvases. Based very quite precisely on the collages. But paint, you know, this is really interesting what paint does, you know, what paint can do, and that malleability of the painting space, that clay-like manipulation of paint, all the textures, all the sense of space, and the solid, the liquid, the air, the hot, the cold, the hard, the soft. You know, all these things paint can do are so different to collage. So, you know, you're kind of, the collage is the starting point. I took the elephant off the hat badge. So he's like the spirit flying off. There it is on the hat badge. And getting back to this sense of dream that I believe from Herbert Reed as well was on the Western Front. He's a soldier, and he talked about the phantasmagoria of the trenches, and it's something I've heard a lot about. And Paul Nash also talks about the color, which of course you don't get normally in the photos, the richness of the color. And I wanted to get this with the ovals. You get a possibility to do something else with the space that you can't do with a rectangle, because there's just that much more liberty. There's that much more freedom with space completely, which did there, tilted it entirely. And so you don't maybe know where to place yourself spatially within them. And this was them, this was Où tombe l'ombre, which is where the shadow falls, which is another quote from T.S. Eliot's The Hollow Men. And earlier this year in Bordeaux, and they were exhibited on this sort of shelf, with one side being the ovals and the other side being the collages, and that seemed to work quite well. It's one way of doing it. Now I looked again, sort of random influences. Think you just sort of something catches your eye, and Hokusai from the Hollow Men. There is a tree swinging, and voices are in the wind singing, and I just love the airiness of Hokusai, and I think I was getting a bit sick of the ovals and the suffocating feeling of the painting. So I did some watercolors on A3 and tried to get Hokusai's airiness in, breathe oxygen into them. And as well, you know, watercolor, very different. Watercolor on paper, such a different surface, such a different paint. Naturally, things are different, and it's really liberating. I don't think I'll ever stop doing these. I just love doing them, and they just you know, are very quick, very quick. But you can get some dramatic heavy effect as well, lightness and weight, things taking off, flying away, the bridges, the duck boards, all of that. And yeah, I just felt that the watercolors from the Hokusai influence were taking it in a new direction that I wanted it to go in. Getting very minimal, stopping when it felt like the right moment to stop. And then I'd made this, which is behind me. This is, again, an Eliot quote from The Wasteland, a heap of broken images, where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter. So every Eliot line is a winner, you know, you just can't go wrong. Painting really came out of this is oil on canvas, but it changed the way I was working to do the watercolors. Very important step, a bit like doing the collages, you know, things feed in and out of the oil paint and change the way you work, which is important. This is the last part. This is where I'm at now. I'm bringing in Stephen's explosion that changed his life forever, that he was lucky to survive. And so there's the explosion. I only realized that a few days ago. I thought, oh yes, that's back to him. But this is an amalgamation of a composite of all the different elements of the collages, trying to make a panorama, and then some watercolors as well, and wanting to get a feeling of broken space. That it's like taking a space and dropping it, and it's breaking. You know, that's what you feel with these trench pictures. And so again, you know, getting that feeling of the breaking of the space, and the power of the explosion. More paintings soon based on that. This is just to finish. So I just wanted to talk about those two themes really tonight. And so to finish another exhibition at the beginning of this year with Franck Garcia, and this was an art center in just outside Bordeaux, Lormont. And this was an amazing space and such a great show. And the children, they have schools in all the time, and it was just wonderful. And it was a really good experience. This is another one of my, this is my dead cock painting that goes back a few years, but it resonated with some of Franck's large still life work. And so I'm not going to talk about that, but that's part of his process. This was the communards work, that's Franck's work. So it was a great show. I just wanted to show that to give a sense of what the work looks like in various different spaces. That was this series. That was really nice. So lucky to have got these things done before the lockdown. That's the one on the left is the one I showed you earlier, the ribby one, the insides. And so that's the end of me. That's all I wanted to say really about that. And then the Beat Painting Prize, again, a sort of lockdown situation, and doing the judging. It was amazing because you could travel through all these painters, you know, visions, imaginations, this color, all these spaces, all this stuff, you know, it was amazing. And so I'm really just showing here a few photos of there's Aaron Kuiper, sorry about this, the pronunciation, and in the background, oh no, wait a minute, no. There's Claire Thatcher in the background, and I'll go through some more. But this, what I wanted to do with these photos, what struck me, you know, when I was in the judging of the show, once the show was in the space, we were looking the winner and stuff, was just how amazing the curation was and what an amazing job John had done. Because it's so difficult. It's so difficult when you've got so many works and you've got a space. And first of all, you have to sort of unpack it all and go, what goes well with what, and then where in the space am I going to put those things together. And spaces had to be constructed, and that's what I love about it's the signature of Beep, is how the spaces are created as sort of islands of paintings in the room. It's not the sort of show where you just trawl around the outsides and look at paintings. They seem to float in the middle. So this is Angeline and sorry, Rachel Lancaster, I think, isn't it? And forgive me if I haven't written down everyone's names. So this was Lara Hudson, David Hancock, and Tez Linkowitz. And yeah, so this was a fantastic corner. I love this corner. And knowing that those would work together, when I saw the Beep 2012, I was just blown away by the quality of it, the selection and the curation and the way the space was dealt with. So I just wanted to really celebrate that just at the end and sort of say thank God it happened. You know, it was all that work for like a week show is difficult to take. It's really difficult to take, but it happened, and there's a record, a virtual tour. So the archive exists. Henry Ward, Luke Skiffington, Freya Perdue, Ciaran Bowen, and so this is a lovely corner as well. This corner, brilliant. Ranald MacDonald, Emrys Williams, Claire Thatcher. Claire Thatcher is one of my sort of, I've always like a work out under it, so I love the scale of it as well. This is brilliant, and I love this as well. This was Joshua Origara, excuse me, pronunciation, and Lucy Howson. And I did love this. I know it's not actually the thing, but it reminded me of my migrant themes and this use of very, very bright color to do something other than just be colorful. There's something else going on in there, which is quite, different. A bit like Nash's Red Mountain, Paul Nash's Red Mountains in the background as well. So, I mean, these are personal favorites, and you can say, that's not what judging's about, and that's true, and that's what as well was the challenge, was how do you judge quality without just saying, oh, I like this one, that I relate to better than that, and so you have to really question what you mean by outside of any boundaries of style, genre, way that what kind of painting sort of, whether it's the sort of painting you can relate to or not as an artist is irrelevant. It's sort of what's quality. And Enzo said it's sort of a celebration of what painting can do, and I think that's really important. It's important, going back to the curation, to show what painting can do. You know, we have to display it properly so that they sing off each other, and you can really see what's going on in each one. And they dance and they sing together. It's easy to kill a painting. So I think the show is firstly the work, amazing work, and then the curation, which makes them sing and dance off each other. They bring out each other, and we see what painting can do. Sorry, I'm going through without saying names, and because I think I don't want to spend too much time on it. There was Amanda Doran and no, it's Amanda. Which one is which? There's Jeb Howard, Sinead Aldrich, and Amanda Doran. And I'm getting lost. There's that's Esma Sultan and Kate Walters. I've missed one out, but this was Marion Jones, Sally Gatty, Jeannie Brown, Daniela Norton, and Graham Jones. Carl Billick. Freya Perdue, Luke Skiffington. I love this relationship, the two and the three dimension. And this was a lovely little series. This is Tom and Rachel McDonald. I love that blue, of course. I would like that. But it really does sing out. It's a small painting, but very, very, it's just, yeah, it's very powerful. Takes up a lot of, really very powerful on the wall. That blue is incredible. So these are lovely little set of three there. And then this is an incredible group. Katie Trick, Paula MacArthur, Juliette Lusk, and these sort of central hovering sort of objects in spaces or views. That's just that's what I mean by the curation. They sing off each other, they bring each other out, they work well together as a group, and to see that and to do it, and to find the right space for it is and here's another lovely little group. Max Kahn, there's Keith again, Keith Ashcroft and Rachel Lancaster. And yeah, the curve there, these everything just dances on the wall. And no, I got that right. No, yes, Elizabeth Langley, Dan Hollings. Yes, that's right. Again, so it shows this sort of central island of where the paintings kind of float in the room, which I always associate that with Beep. Leon Delit, I don't know Leon Delit, and Sam Douglas and Tess Gray, again, lovely. Edwin Aiken, Kay Bainbridge, brilliant run there. And the show's down and it's such a shame, but at least we can kind of celebrate it still. Andrew Stitt, Steve Mobley, Eleanor Evans and Christie Burdock. I'm sorry, I didn't put, no, everybody's in these because I worked with the photos that Sarah took, which was great, brilliant. But I haven't got everybody. And I would love to just show everybody because it was such a great show. And I highly commended Penny Hallis on the far left. I thought that was a really, really great bit of painting. But all these John Wyatt Clark, Natasha Conway, just a lovely series, really bring each other out. And then we've got our winner, Rosalind Farham, Brian Cheeseman and Michael Koplov. Great group, these two. This all works so well. And then from there, I think we're getting to the end. Gareth. I've only got Gareth. I forgot a second. Gareth. I love his work. I love the relationship between the sort of assemblage and the painting that sort of abîme, mise en abîme that he gets in his work. It's very playful. It's great. And then the last one, oh yes, I thought this was an amazing painting. And yeah, to finish with Rosalind and Brian Cheeseman, Rosalind Farham, and to finish with the winner. And that's it. I'm done. Thank you for whoever's not fallen asleep.